Thank you, everybody, for joining us back here at Nubeva's channel. We're sitting here once again with Randy. And Randy, it's been a little bit, and you have a whole lot of
Yeah,
exciting stuff to dive into, man. But how have you been?
absolutely. Much better. I think the eye surgeries are behind. Hopefully, knock on wood behind me. I think that preventing me from doing the video recordings. I apologize.
Hmm.
I frankly thought about doing these recordings without video, but that kind of felt a little weird. Maybe one day I'll do it if I had to. But right now, eye is great.
All right, that's fantastic to hear. Randy, what are you talking about? We can get you an AI avatar next time, and it'll do all the talking just fine.
I do have a Vision Pro with an avatar. It's a
There
little
we go.
scary, but yeah, okay.
But here, man, yeah, we got a lot of
All
exciting
right,
things to dive into. So
absolutely.
first off,
Yes,
answering some people's questions. How
sure.
is Nubeva's cash position right now, and just the overall financial health of the company?
Yeah, so right now, cash position is very healthy, as I've mentioned before. The board has essentially given me high priority to keep the cash position very, very healthy, not spend on anything that we absolutely have to, grow the patents and grow our Lighthouse accounts, which is all going very well.
Perfect. And another big thing people have been talking about a lot is, of course, the patent filings. Like, where do you think stand with that right now? Is there any friction or anything going on there?
None whatsoever. No, at this point in time, typically, if the patent office comes back to us, they'll start telling us, "Hey, that claim that you had, number 23, that seems to be worded very similar to this other patent." And I'm sure, just like everybody else, they now have AI helping them search around. And so we would have expected whatever they would have found, we would have expected by now to have some sort of I don't want to say a complaint, but a concern. They typically would have raised a concern and asked us about that. Not at all. Everything is clear from our perspective. We have not heard a single thing from a complaint standpoint. Everything is progressing as we expected.
Yeah,
It's
fantastic.
great.
That's yeah,
Yep.
that's great to hear. And I feel like we're going to say AI like 12 times at least in this. But getting on to something very similar then. So you were at the
Yeah.
NVIDIA conference, which
Right.
obviously NVIDIA has been huge in the space too. So like
Right.
what stood out to you in terms of the model optimization going on right now?
Yeah, so if you look at it from our perspective, and I apologize, this was a couple of months ago already, the NVIDIA conference, and as I think we talked about this, I was actually at the first CUDA conference. This is 2008 or 2009, when they turned the water war green, and there were just not that many people that actually showed up. So this is obviously significantly larger than that conference. What was that? 16 years ago.
Wow.
And I think from when it comes to us, now there was a lot of focus on different things, on car self-driving and video. Jan LeCun was there, but from our perspective, from a Nubeva perspective, what we want is AI to help us from our emergency services, right? When somebody gets into a ransomware event, how is AI going to help us? And so what we want to be able to do is handhold the customer the best we can. In fact, not just the customer, every layer from their board, their lawyers, their IR firm, and everybody else, whoever they are, we want them to feel like we're right next to them, helping right there.
Mhm.
Because the problem that we have is they do need that, right? The boards, when a large company gets hit by a ransomware, I mean, the boards call us, the CEO calls us, everybody under the sun calls us, and they want to feel like, hey, you're giving them everything you've got. And that's what we need AI for. And so one of the big things that I actually took a class on this, but it's not a surprise, I'm sure, for anybody hearing this, is how do you take a large language model and shrink it? In fact, any model, any AI model, and shrink it down so you can make use of that. Obviously, we got a lot of high profile coverage from what DeepSeek did in China, but that's obviously not our goal. What we want to be able to do is shrink entire footprint down so that when an ransomware event happens and somebody's running our sensors, that we can, from the sensor itself, start guiding the customer on what they're supposed to do. That was by far the most expensive component of what we offer, which is, well, now that we're solving your problem, how do we actually completely solve your problem, right? So the ability to take models and provide your own weight and shrinking it down to I am really in this ransomware event. What happened at the cooler or water cooler or the temperature? Not my thing. That just take that out of this model and shrink it down. And that's been fantastic. We have been able to shrink a number of different things into very small, not just your typical laptops, but smaller devices that are used in manufacturing. All right. So during the NVIDIA conference, I'm taking this class and they're actually trying to teach people. There's probably a few hundred people in the classroom. And they're teaching us how to essentially move a large language model and give it weight so it's useful for you, or shrink it down and do what you need. Okay. So at that point, they're teaching you different things and they're giving you GPU access. And at some point, they gave us access to several, what appeared to be probably almost $100 million worth of GPUs. And they said, you need to click on this and say you're not going to run crypto math or anything to that effect. And the reason they have to do that is during these classes, people make mistakes. And the minute they make mistakes that, let's say you were meant to shrink something by 100 times or 1,000 times, and accidentally you took their largest large language model and you didn't shrink it, and you made it big, even bigger, you gave it more information. Well, you're going to be waiting there for a long time if you didn't get enough GPUs. And so it was staggering how many GPUs they actually uh, allowed for the classes during the NVIDIA conference. They wanted to make sure that people pay several $1,000s to attend these classes. It's different from the actual conference, expo, and everything else. And so they wanted everybody to get an experience that was very positive. And so how do you actually prevent someone, you're teaching them something they've never done? Well, they may make a mistake that takes over all the entire GPU cluster. Well, how do you alleviate that? Well, you give them way more than they ever need. So that was actually pretty cool. So that, I think, a lot of different things. I mean, the size of the conference was just enormous. The coverage, the fact that we had people lined up, 20, 30,000 people on Jensen's speech. I met him 16, 17 years ago, and anybody could walk up and meet him. Nowadays, he's just surrounded by bodyguards and everything else, which I thought was I got a picture out of it, but it's just stunning, actually. So
Yeah, how fast technology progresses, things
absolutely.
change. It's entirely different world now at this point. And if you could then, so now, okay, so the way you're implementing AI into things, if you could just give like the sequence, just a high level sequence. So, okay,
Right.
ransomware event happens. What
Right.
happens next? What's the sequence? Just high
Okay,
level.
so typically what happens is a hacker, or malicious person will go out and say, "Hey, I ransomed your machines if you haven't noticed, and you got to send me these bitcoins." So what a large corporation would do at that point is, 100% of the time they got to call their insurance, right? Which the insurers and the IR firms. The insurance brings out their own lawyers, their own IR incident response firm. Most large corporations themselves have their own IR firm, but and then you end up battling it out a little bit. But almost always the insurance's IR firm takes over because they have experience on this one specific thing. Most IR firms are there not just to do ransomware, but other cybersecurity things. Okay, so at that point, what happens is you got all these machines. The IR firm will install or use the customer's EDR at that point. So whether they're using CrowdStrike or Microsoft EDR, you name it, they got to come in and use what they prefer. Now, ideally, what they prefer and what the customer's running the same, but it doesn't matter. The IR firm always wins. The insurance side IR firm always wins that. Right. So they lock out everything. Everything is completely locked so that you can't get any further ransoms. Hackers can't get in any further. Well, what that happens after that is we come in, we start helping them. Hey, while you're negotiating with the malicious people, we can come in and decrypt everything for you, and that is what they do. Okay, and that is the most time-consuming event there is today from a Nubeva standpoint. Is everything is locked down? Well, if everything's locked down, how did you get the keys onto the machine, right? If you start thinking about it, well, that means okay, I gotta very carefully open this up to allow the keys in, or for every single machine, we're talking about 30, 50,000 routinely ransom devices. Are they gonna really go in and create 50,000 USB sticks with the keys going in with a decryptor to run, right? You can decide to do that, which some firms do that. And others will say, I trust the EDR. Let's allow the EDR to allow this one program, which is our decryptor, to run with the keys. Okay. So at that point, then you decrypt everything, and you confirm that things are in order. Otherwise, you got to go out and try to pay for the ransomware. Which, by the way, I'd say a big proportion of the time, even when you pay the ransomware, the decrypted data doesn't completely come back.
Hmm.
Okay? So that's very, very important. So that entire process is cumbersome, whether we are involved. If the customer never knew about Nubeva and we were never involved, that entire process is just a killer. We're talking about 3, 4, 5 weeks, sometimes 6 months, even after someone has paid the ransom.
Yeah, it's a big business killer at
Okay?
that point. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And then finally, end users get brand new laptops or desktops. They're never going to actually use the machine that was ransomed. They'll take back out from it what the user will say, I absolutely need this to be able to do my daily job. And
Mhm.
that's all they get. And so that is an entire process that takes weeks, months, and sometimes depending on the priority of it, years. So
Yeah, and I'm kind of it's painting a real picture here, because on one hand, everyone involved on let's say the good guys side is using the AI, but so are the bad guys now at this.
right,
And that kind of goes into you were at the RSA conference, and that's
yes,
definitely kind of one of the things going on there. Is like, hey, we have this great, amazing technology, this powerful
right,
technology, and it's like, oh man, everybody has this powerful technology.
exactly.
So, what was the key takeaways with that?
Yeah, I'm a little amazed that we haven't done a video across two major conferences, but RSA was well attended, and as all of you can imagine, the theme there was AI. Okay, so there's two major themes from our perspective. Is one, either somebody if somebody's using AI to attack you, what do you got to do? And in our case, well, if somebody's been attacked and you want to solve their cybersecurity concerns and events, well, how do you use AI to alleviate that? Okay. And so and those of you that attended it, went to the keynotes, Cisco CEO talked about this, a number of different speakers all talked about this, which is everybody wants to take whether you're trying to solve the problem from a defending against AI or you're using AI to defend AI or not AI, it doesn't really matter. Today, AI hallucinates too much. So you essentially got to take something that's fairly open-ended that will give you a large percentage of information that is extremely useful, but once in a while, it'll give you something that is absolutely garbage. Okay. And so, what we need to be able to do in the cybersecurity business, and this is just unanimous, right? What people at the RSA were talking about is we have to take that and convert that into something very deterministic. So code is deterministic, software is, math is. You can't take something open-ended and deliver something open-ended and say, here you go, you have a solution that works most of the time. That just doesn't work. And the beauty of that is, you talked about the patents at the beginning. We actually, the 4 patents that we filed were all about taking AI, using it, and ending up with something deterministic. Now, the entire industry realizes, and so I don't know how earth-shattering that is from our perspective, but it's good to know that we did do that, and at the same time, all the patents are advancing in that manner, right? It would be horrendous if we file 4 patents and it turns out 2 of them are open-ended and not deterministic, and now we got to go rewrite it because there's no value. So that hasn't happened. So that's a great reassurance from that standpoint.
Perfect. And in that, it's kind of like the term I've used is the temperature of the AI. You don't want it throwing random stuff out there. You don't want it riffing.
Right,
You don't want it
right,
riffing coming up
right,
with its
right,
own stuff,
right,
which it
right.
does very confidently, which is another big part
All
of
the
it.
time. Yeah, all the time. Yes.
And
Very true.
yeah, so then Randy, right now I know Nubeva has essentially some lighthouse accounts, the things you've really
Right,
been focusing on. How are
right.
all those progressing? And are you focusing on any like new deals or anything?
Yeah, great question. As I mentioned before, the board has assigned me to keep cash in under very, very strict spending from our standpoint, and so and making sure that the plans are advancing, and the Lighthouse accounts. In fact, all the customers that we have signed up right now are super happy, and that is going exceptionally well. I mean, the sheer amount of support tickets right now, we're talking about one maybe a month at best right now. Okay. And and our customers are very happy. They're paying all on time. Everything is great from that perspective. We do actually have, I've mentioned this before, we do have Lighthouse accounts now referring other accounts that would be Lighthouse for us from a brand name standpoint that I had mentioned, hey, we're not quite ready to engage with them. I think given our load and our understanding of what it takes from a ransomware event, we are now starting to engage a little bit, but I want to make sure everybody understands we're not opening this spigot here. This is a case by case basis. I think I'm looking at potentially closing a couple of these accounts, maybe a few more. We're talking about in the six-figure standpoint. From a yearly standpoint, we would sign them for 3 or 5 years in the six-figure, but nothing to the point where if as soon as we see one that takes up too much of our resources, we're probably going to shut this down. So I don't want to get everybody the wrong impression as to what we're doing, but we are getting referrals from people that we haven't asked for before. We're really not marketing this from that standpoint until the patents and everything else comes in. So
Okay.
that's going well.
Yeah, so you're looking at conservative, calculated growth at this,
Exactly.
waiting for the
Exactly.
patents to get secured. And
Right.
then from there, from that point, where do you see things for Nubeva kind of heading? Are you going to be looking at maybe some more automation, more AI
Yeah.
integration, strategic M&A? Like
Yeah.
what's in your
Yeah.
vision?
Yeah, so I think the outcomes are twofold, and I mentioned this before. One is AI gets so good from our standpoint in how we can use it to the point where the emergency services and ransomware events are completely automatic. It can't be somewhat automatic. It needs to be everything else is hands off. Everybody trusts us. They're going to get back their data, and that's just how it is. Okay. And today, that's a very, very manual process. So, but if we can't get there, obviously now we can scale that at any size we want to. That's one path. Another one is obviously we want to keep the Lighthouse accounts all the brand names accounts very happy. And if we were to engage in a partnership or an M&A conversation, the Lighthouse accounts are the ones that matter the most. In fact, they matter 100%. Okay, so every partner wants to hear from your largest accounts on how you close them, how do you engage them, how happy they are, how much value do they see, do they enjoy working with you, and so those two are essentially the paths that we're taking today, and they're both going well.
Fantastic. Well, Randy, listen, thank you for coming on. Like you said, we had two conferences in before between the last one
I
and this one,
know.
so it's really good to get caught up. And is there anything else you want to say to people before we go?
No, that's about it. I think the weather's good. I look forward to doing more of these.
Perfect. All right, Randy, great seeing you again. And everybody, please have a wonderful day. Cheers.